So let's talk about a new kind of war. One with no explosions, no missiles fired, but one that's just as dangerous. This is the incredible story of how one of the world's most powerful warships was completely neutralized by a weapon you can't even see.
Imagine this. It's 05:34 in the morning. All of a sudden, the ship's navigation systems just break. They start spitting out impossible coordinates. Communication channels turn to pure static, and for the next 72 hours, this floating fortress was fighting completely in the dark.
Now, this wasn't some random glitch. Oh no, the USS Abraham Lincoln didn't just stumble into trouble. It was actually lured into a very carefully prepared electronic ambush. To understand what happened, you have to look at the timeline. It all started with political tension. The US makes a threat, and in response, they move their biggest chess piece, the Lincoln, into the region. But here's the thing. Iran had been getting ready for this for 8 months, secretly getting their hands on some real game-changing tech from Russia. And then, just one day before the attack, they sent up a drone. Not to attack, but just to listen, building a perfect digital blueprint of the carrier's electronic soul. And this is the weapon at the heart of our story, the Murmansk BN. It's not a missile launcher, it's a mobile jamming platform. Think about that range, up to 8,000 kilometers. It can basically project an invisible wall of electronic chaos, turning a huge patch of ocean into a digital dead zone. So how in the world do you actually do that? How do you blind a multi-billion-dollar warship with nothing but radio waves? Well, the attack wasn't about brute force, it was about science. The technique is called barrage jamming, and honestly, it's brutally simple. You see, the GPS signals that reach us from space are incredibly faint, just a tiny whisper. So all Iran's systems had to do was shout 1,000 times louder. They just blasted the area with so much electronic noise on those specific frequencies that the carrier's sensitive receivers were totally overwhelmed. They couldn't hear the satellites whisper through the deafening roar. And the effect on the bridge must have been terrifying. 1 minute, you're in the Arabian Sea. The next, your navigation screen says you've teleported 600 kilometers and are now sitting in the middle of the Iranian desert. Your eyes are telling you one thing, but all your advanced instruments are screaming something completely impossible. And here's what's so critical to understand. Losing GPS isn't just about getting lost. A modern warship's entire digital nervous system, everything, depends on the super accurate timing signal from those satellites. So when that signal vanishes, it all just falls apart. Secure comms, gone. Data links for sharing info, corrupted. And worst of all, your weapons can't get an accurate lock. It is a total, cascading system meltdown. Okay, so the ship is in digital chaos. The US Navy now has to deal with a crisis that's unfolding not at the speed of a missile, but at the speed of light. And things went from bad to worse fast. The Navy set up its own electronic warfare jets, but they were chasing ghosts. They couldn't pinpoint the jammers. A fighter pilot, flying blind without his navigation aids, nearly ditched his jet in the ocean trying to land manually. And the chaos started spreading. Civilian ships were getting hit too, leading to a collision between 2 massive oil tankers. The jamming created so much confusion that a US destroyer couldn't tell if an approaching Iranian boat was a threat or not. In that world, ambiguity kills. And the scale of this was just staggering. In a single 24-hour period, 900 commercial ships in the area reported that their navigation systems were failing. The world's most vital energy choke point had effectively been shut down. What Iran created has a military name, an A2/AD bubble. It stands for Anti-Access/Area Denial. Basically, it's an invisible fortress, a zone where the electronic interference is so intense that even the most advanced military on the planet can't operate properly. And the Lincoln was stuck right in the middle of it. So, just as the crisis was hitting its absolute peak, a solution appeared. And you'll never guess where it came from. It wasn't from some top-secret military program. It came from somewhere completely unexpected. I mean, that was the fundamental problem, right? You can't shoot a radio wave. You can't drop a bomb on an electronic signal. You have to find a way to outthink the problem. The breakthrough came from, of all places, SpaceX. You see, their Starlink system works differently. It doesn't rely on those same weak, easy-to-jam GPS signals. Instead, it figures out its location by talking to multiple satellites in its own network at the same time and measuring the difference. It's a completely different method on different frequencies using a different network.
And that's the great irony of this whole thing. Iran had spent months building the perfect weapon to defeat the US military's billion-dollar GPS system. Their attack was incredibly specialized, laser-focused, but that very specialization created a massive blind spot. They were ready for the military's high-tech sword, but they had no defense against a simple civilian tool that had been cleverly adapted. The jamming eventually stopped, but the incident totally changed the game. It proved, without a doubt, that major wars can now be fought and won in a spectrum the human eye can't even perceive. I mean, just look at these numbers. This comparison tells you everything you need to know. For about $400 million, less than the cost of 2 new fighter jets, Iran managed to seriously degrade a $25 billion carrier strike group. The return on investment for electronic warfare is just off the charts, and that's exactly why this is the future. Now, to be clear, the after-action report found the Lincoln was still operating at about 60% capability, and that's a really important distinction. The ship was hampered, for sure, but it wasn't defeated. It was seriously annoyed, but not totally neutralized. It shows that while jamming is incredibly powerful, it wasn't a silver bullet, at least not this time. And the ripple effects of this silent battle were felt all over the world. Marine insurance rates in the region shot up, gas prices ticked up for all of us. Countries like Saudi Arabia and Israel immediately started pouring billions into countermeasures, building pipelines to avoid the Strait altogether and developing weapons that don't need GPS. This invisible fight had very real and very loud economic consequences. But maybe the most powerful perspective comes from the people who actually lived through it. This quote from a sailor on the Lincoln, it just perfectly captures the psychological weight of this new kind of war. It's that feeling of being hunted by something you can't see and can't fight back against. So, in the end, the Lincoln got out of the dead zone. The US adapted and Iran backed down. But everyone learned a lesson. The next time this happens, you can bet the jamming will be smarter, the dead zone will be bigger. And it leaves us with a really critical question for the future. When the battle is fought in the invisible world of the electromagnetic spectrum, who really has the advantage? The side with the most advanced toys, or the side that's figured out how to switch them all off?